And if those wholesalers don't want to buy, they might be in trouble. And all of a sudden, wow, I have no cash. Pretty soon you have to start turning people away. No, I can't buy your metal. It's very unlikely that you'll ever get the entire premium you paid back on the sellback, unless...
So yesterday, I asked you to leave comments and questions on my community tab that we could cover with a coin shop owner, and today we are going to do just that. We are going to be joined by Josh from Minot Coin and Bullion. We're going to go over some of those questions and see what Josh has to say. My channel is sponsored by sdbullion.com. New customers can get their first order of gold or silver at spot by going to sdbullion.com/new. Everybody, welcome back. We are joined once again with Josh from Minot Coin and Bullion, and today we are going to be covering questions that you asked. And Josh, I want to start with this one. So this actually wasn't a comment on my community post, but this was actually about the Pocket Pinger app that I talked about the other day. And he says, as a 30-plus year coin precious metals dealer, I can say that if you need to use a machine such as a phone app test, you don't know metals enough to trust your judgment, as well as you are not buying from known reputable sources/dealers with years of knowledge or experience. If you're buying off eBay or from a Chinese-owned business, you could be in trouble. Buy local, pay for known knowledge and experience. Now, Josh, I don't have a problem with a lot of that comment. I absolutely believe in shopping local and supporting your local businesses. And obviously, as a shop owner, you do as well. But I do have an issue with just saying trust 100% who you're buying from. Because don't get me wrong, most shops out there are honest, but there are shops out there that don't check every single ounce of their silver. Like, even if they come in, like, let's say, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, but let's say, somebody walks through the door with 500 ounces of silver rounds. A lot of shops, I'm not saying them all, I can't talk about every single shop, but they will open every tube. They'll kind of eyeball them. They'll pull a few out and they'll test them, but they're not going to go through and test every single ounce. And I have seen shops in the past that end up with a few ounces here or there of fakes, over the course of years. So what's so wrong with, somebody being able to verify what they're purchasing themselves? I mean, what do you think about that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think everybody wants to have that good feeling inside that what they're buying is legitimate. So Pocket Pinger app is an app that can help with certain products from that regard. As far as what the dealer says with, buy from people you trust or reputable dealers, people you trust can be fooled too. I've had that happen many times. I've had good customers that have bought metals, from all over the place over the years that have maybe come back in to sell. They have some fakes within their collection and they had no idea. And I honestly believe that they had no idea. So yeah, of course, you're going to want to verify everything you can. To your point, somebody brings in a monster box of something, silver rounds, Canadian maple leafs. I don't know a dealer that has the time to check all 500 ounces, especially if they truly have a retail store and people are coming and going. I sure don't. I do exactly what you said. I'll do spot checks. After the fact, when I have some time, I'll go through everything. And honestly, there's been some times where, oh, wow, there's a silver round wedged in this tube of silver eagles, and I paid for silver eagles. Or I've yet to come across a fake within tubes once I go through it after the fact. But, you get to a point where you check enough and you give the customer the benefit of the doubt, and I pay. Gold's a little different. I'll test every piece of gold.
Yeah, I mean, and that makes sense because the value difference is insane.
Exactly. But yeah, there's just not enough minutes in the day to test every ounce of silver if somebody brings in a significant amount. Same argument can be made about 90% silver coinage when customers sell it. I've bought large quantities and go through after the fact only to find, some clad coins or Canadian dimes, or I've even found some fake Walking Liberty silver $half within bags of 90%. So, shame on me. At that point, it's my fault. But I think it's important, if you're not checking it all at that moment when you buy it from the public, you better be checking it all before you resell it. And that's what I make sure I do.
Absolutely. But I wonder if all shops do that themselves. Like you said, people have ended up with fakes in their stack, and they probably bought it from a legitimate dealer who himself didn't realize he was selling a fake here or there. So I don't personally see an issue with people having the ability and the knowledge to be able to check silver themselves. That was kind of my argument with him. We got into a little bit of a chat there in the comment. I'm not going to get into all of that, but it's called trust with verify for a reason. Josh, I trust you as a dealer. I'll still verify what you send me. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, we're human. We can all make mistakes. I put out a video, gosh, it's over a year ago now, where I bought a grouping of over 200 ounces of sovereign silver mixed coins that a dealer had taken in. It's not a dealer that I've ever mentioned on my channel, so don't jump to conclusions, but it was within a private dealer group, and I liked the mix of the lot. So I said, hey, I'll buy it. Going through the lot, I found a fake Canadian maple leaf. He was willing to make it right. I actually told him, don't worry about it. I'm still happy with the price. I'm going to use this as education. So things happen. Even 30 plus year experienced dealers are going to make mistakes sometimes and miss some things. So yeah, the customer's ability to be able to verify is huge in this industry because, let's be honest, there's a lot of fakes out there, and it's very scary, very frustrating for the customer, especially the newer customer going in, not knowing, hey, is this legit? I get first time customers in the shop that I can tell are apprehensive and uneasy about buying metal. I have my Sigma Pro Metalytics. So I said, well, here's what this machine does. And here I can show you that this tests for what I'm telling you it is. But they're aware of Chinese fakes and, websites that are ripping people off. So they need that reassurance. And I think that's important.
Absolutely. I agree. All right, so let's get into the comments because I released a community tab post yesterday asking people, ask some questions. What do you want me and Josh to talk about? So here we go. So TOAN says, gold is out of my reach with current high premiums. Is it okay to buy platinum and palladium instead? At what percent is too high for premiums? The highest I've ever paid was 6%. Now, before you answer this question, I will say that 1 ounce Eagles right now, obviously it's going to be different in different parts of the country, but I have a shop near me right now that's selling 1 ounce Eagles for $75 over spot. That's around 3%. So that's like half of what the most he's paid is. I know it gets way higher on fractionals. Obviously, 10th ounce Eagles have a much higher premium. But what are your thoughts on that? Not only the high premiums on gold that he had mentioned, but also platinum and palladium.
Yeah, well, I have to assume that he misspoke in that comment and he meant high price. Because to your point, premiums aren't high. They're actually pretty historically low right now on all gold. As price gets high, premiums sometimes drop. And that's what we've seen now, where you can buy, well, to your point, in your area, less than 3% over on a 1 ounce gold Eagle. That's cheap. There's times not too far back in the distant past where wholesale costs were higher than that. And now the retail cost is that. So I think he meant overall cost just because of the high spot price. So, at what point, to answer his question though, at what point are premiums too high? That's an individualized decision. But for me, once a 1 ounce gold Eagle got much up over 5%, 5.5%, and granted, I don't buy a lot of gold. I'm a silver guy, that. But that's pretty high. Is it okay to buy platinum palladium? Sure, if that's a metal you like to stack. One thing about platinum palladium, they experience pretty volatile swings, especially palladium. I've seen palladium move $300 or $400 in a day. Before we started filming this, we talked about in 2018, palladium was around it was probably 2019, 2020. Palladium was around $3,000. Now it's less than $1,000. So if you can handle that volatility and it's a metal you want to stack, I say go for it. But palladium is very difficult to source. There's not a wide variety of different items in palladium or platinum. So for me, those are metals I do not stack. I truly look at those more as an industrial metal, even though silver is too, arguably, right? I would rather buy silver at that point if gold is out of reach.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I do have 1 ounce of, and I told you this, but I'll tell everyone else. I have 1 ounce of palladium, which is a palladium Eagle that's slab 70. I sent it off myself. And then I have 1 ounce of raw platinum, and that's it. So it's not something that I stack. It's just, I wanted to have something of each metal, so I got one of each of those. But when I go out and I actively look for silver, I actively stack silver. Gold, obviously, I'm interested in it as well, but not like I am silver, just like you are. But yeah, platinum and palladium, I don't even look for it. It shows. It's just not something I'm into. And that's not to say that if you're into it, it's bad. That's totally fine. It's just not for me. So let's move on to the next one, Josh. Let's see. So Clash with Neo says, what are your thoughts on demand on gold and silver by type? I wanted to bring that one up because it's a very good point. There were more people buying collectible silver pieces at the show I was just at recently than there were, say, generic silver rounds. So I think there is, I'm not going to say a crazy higher demand for more collectible silver, but I think what's happening, at least this is just my thoughts, I'm not, basing this on any research I've done, But I think what's happening is with the premiums coming down, even on Eagles, is now people are starting to look at something and it holds the premium a little bit more as time goes on. So maybe Eagles are something that people look at more favorably now than they did, say, in 2023 when the premiums were asinine, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, asinine is right. But yeah, that's a good point. I think geographically it's different. I was surprised at that video you put out where people were not buying silver rounds at, you said you had them for $1 over spot. And I think Keith said he was 50 cents and you saw somebody has selling them at spot and nobody was buying them. Wow. I still am in my region in, North Dakota, moving a lot of silver and gold right now, despite the high prices. I haven't necessarily seen a shift more towards collectible silver or semi-numi silver. So I don't know. I think it's geographic more than anything, but I think people will always gravitate towards a good deal. I can kind of dictate's the wrong word, but I can kind of guide people into what they're going to buy by the prices I charge, right? That's what any retail business can do. I mean, that's a trick that fast food uses, right? I mean, they're going to put something on special and, I shouldn't use the word trick, but, but they can guide people on what types of items we would prefer them to buy, whether it be a higher profit item or whatever, based on how you price it and present it. So I guess what I'm getting at is I had a bunch of foreign gold, old foreign gold. I had British sovereigns. I had some coins from the Netherlands. I put them on, sale for 2% under melt and sold out within a day. I just did a quick YouTube video. I'm guessing a lot of those people never probably would have thought that they wanted to own a British gold sovereign from 1890, but you could buy 2% or under gold price. That's the cheapest gold around that they could find right now. So I don't know. I think it's a matter of how you price things. I sold a lot of 90% this week, but I had a sale on 90% on Wednesday. I sold a lot of silver eagles this week too, and I'm at $4.50 over spot. Most people are coming in to buy the 2025s, but in my area, the demand hasn't really waned. I've had a very, very busy week. Sold a lot of gold this week too, which honestly surprised me because of the high price. Although premiums are affordable on a percentage basis, but once you convert it to dollars, because of the high price of gold, the dollar premium seems kind of high, but percentage wise, it's affordable right now.
Yeah. So, a couple of things with going back to that video I did at the show. It wasn't even me. Like, I put in a video, I had Keith record me as I changed it from $1 to 50 cents. But, there was a dealer that didn't sell anything, and he had it priced at spot, and he had a lot of silver. And I opened one of the tubes, like they were BU. It wasn't like they were like beat up, scratched, tarnished, ugly rounds. They were nice, fresh rounds that he couldn't even sell at spot. Hindsight being 2020, now that the silver's over 32, I wish I had bought some, but I didn't need any silver at the time. I was at the show for a totally different purpose. But I think you're right. I think geographic location plays, a thing into it. But I've heard, and it's great, by the way, that you're doing as much business as you are with silver. But I've heard this echoed from other dealers in different parts of the country too. So calling around shops and talking to some of the dealers, and even Mike has said that hasn't seen demand on generic silver this low in a very long time. So Andrew C 1413 asked, what are his thoughts on stacking, and he's talking about you, Josh, on stacking generic rounds versus eagles. I've had a hard time buying eagles because I don't know if I'll ever be able to recoup the premiums on them. So I just said, with premiums getting lower on eagles, that I'm looking at them again. But what are your thoughts on that? Because the premiums, like I just mentioned, Major Tucker had rounds at no premium at all, and eagles are like +4. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, well, as far as what I would stack right now, that's tough. I mean, honestly, because in the past couple of weeks, I've stacked both for myself. I wanted some 2025 eagles, so as they came in, I made sure I kept some for my personal stack. But still, right now, I would gravitate towards lower premium silver, although Eagles premiums are very reasonable right now, especially compared to where they were 3-4 years ago when we saw, near $20 premiums. As far as getting the premium back on the sellback, it's very unlikely that you'll ever get the entire premium you paid back on the sellback unless there's major shifts in the markets. For instance, now this is just me speaking, but I'm selling 1 ounce American silver eagles for $4.50 over spot for BU uncirculated eagles. If you want to sell one back to me, I'm going to pay you $2.50 over spot, as long as it's brilliant, uncirculated 1 ounce American Silver Eagle. So that's a $2 premium loss right off the top. So in order to recoup that, I guess, per se, silver would have to go up $2 for you to break even, and the markets would have to stay the same in terms of wholesale buyback prices. So rounds works on a little bit different spreads, but or different numbers, but similar spreads. It's about a $2 spread between what I'm selling a round for and what I'm buying it back for right now. It's going to depend on the type of round. I'm selling rounds for $1. I'm buying them for $1 back. So that's just where we're at right now. Like I said, it's difficult to ever fully recoup the premium you pay. You have to rely on an uptick in spot price typically.
Okay.
So I guess it's my advice. I would get more for your money today. I would buy the generics.
That's fair. And so I like that you said I'd buy the cheaper and buy the generics, because I would think, and I've actually talked about this on the channel before, but maybe someone hasn't heard me say this, but I would think that if you really do expect silver to go up, way up, like high 40s, 50s, 60s, if the spreads are going to be the same between when you're buying and selling anyway, it would almost just be better just to have more silver in that case, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree.
So, at a $2 difference per ounce on average, between rounds. Actually, so what are you selling rounds for? Let's just do some math.
$1 over spot.
$1 over spot. So it's $3.50, per ounce difference between eagles and rounds, which means
that's a lot.
Yeah, which means that today's spot price, for every 10 eagles, you can buy 11 ounces of rounds. So yeah, that's an extra ounce it's like buy 10 get one free. You know what I mean, as far as ounces of silver are concerned.
Yep.
So that's kind of where I am, is like, at the end of the day, it's going to be better to have more silver. And when I was talking to dealers at that show, Josh, because I was trying to sell the silver across the counter, but I asked the 3 dealers, and full disclosure, I've known these 3 dealers forever, but I did ask them what they would pay to the general public for rounds, and they all said about $1 back of spot. So the dealers are still buying, right? Yeah. It's just I was having trouble selling it to the public at that show. The public at that show wasn't very interested. And that actually leads us into our next question. This comes from JS Vintage. He says, how many bullion dealers have enough cash on hand to withstand a prolonged period of buying tons of silver without selling much? Josh, I'm just going to go straight to you on this one.
That's a good question that I can't possibly entirely know the answer, but just speaking, knowing what I know of other dealers in my industry, not all of them for sure can handle prolonged periods of really, really low selling demand and increased buying from the public. Speaking for myself and others that I know, we all have finite amounts of cash. And, we get into situations where the sell market gets very weak, and we're buying from the public. You get cash depleted pretty quickly. The nice thing about it, and most dealers do this, I rarely have to do it, but I have before. But some dealers, I know there's one in Florida, and I'll just name him because he's a great guy, Brian Vermillion out of Florida. He's sending to refineries almost every day. Those are words out of his own mouth, because they're buying so much from the public. They have to be able to stay liquid and stay capitalized. So buying from the public, sending to a refiner, as long as the refiners as long as the refiners continue to buy from dealers, it's no big deal. You can always, recoup. You can get your money back, maybe make a little by sending it to melt. But in normal circumstances, a lot of the smaller dealers that I know don't really use the refineries. They'll look at maybe another wholesaler to liquidate to. And if those wholesalers don't want to buy, they might be in trouble. And all of a sudden, wow, I have no cash. Pretty soon you have to start turning people away. No, I can't buy your metal. So do I think it's ever going to get to that point? It definitely could for some, depending on how they operate their business. But even though, I'd say on average nationwide right now, there's an influx of people selling back to coin shops, just, watching videos, and who you speak to as well, and others that I know, they are having to use refineries to take that burden of excess metal so they can get cash back in their bank accounts so they can continue to operate. So there again, it's a geographical thing. Not everybody's going to fit that, but that's where we're at right now.
So what did the refiners do with that metal? Turn it into the COMEX bars that go off to industry then, or what?
I think so. I couldn't say specifically, but a lot of them, they might be melting. I know refineries that are melting down gold eagles right now.
Wow.
I mean, that's kind of unheard of, but I mean, they're getting so many sent to them. So at that point, yeah, melt them, separate them, turn them into pure bars, off they go. They might be turning them into grain. I guess I'm not really sure. I'm sure each refinery has their own method that they're using, but they are getting a lot of metal, a lot of metal. So there's, bullion coins with known mintages, modern bullion coins, sovereign bullion coins with known mintages that are getting melted right now, which is kind of unheard of. And to your point, that's why premiums on gold is lower right now, because there's a lot coming across the counter from the public cashing in on these, near all-time high prices and selling. So shops are getting inundated. They have to liquidate to a refinery if they can't sell it on their own. And pretty soon the refineries have too much. And now, well, God, we got to melt some down and turn it into something deliverable. So
Wow.
it's interesting right now.
It is. So you had said separate, and for you guys that don't know, eagles aren't actually pure gold. They actually have a balance of silver and copper. So they actually have to separate those metals out. I wonder, do you know this, Josh? Maybe you don't. Do the refineries buy eagles cheaper than they do, say, buffaloes or maples because of the purity difference? And if you don't know, that's fine.
I don't know that because I haven't had to sell to a refinery.
Fair enough.
But that's a good point. They maybe do, because unless they think they can resell it right away.
That's fair.
I guess I don't know.
Okay. Well, Josh, there are other questions, but the video is, we're like 20 minutes into this now, so we're going to hold off on the rest of them. Guys, I know you asked other questions. We're going to have Josh back. We'll try and cover those, some of those in the future, I should say. But do me a favor, if you haven't done so yet, Josh has his own YouTube channel. I'm going to put a link in the description. Go over there and give him a sub. Watch some of his content. He has some great content over there. And if you're ever in Minot, North Dakota, check him out in person. But Josh, thank you for joining us. I really do appreciate it. I hope to have you back sometime soon.
Yeah, appreciate that. I'd love to be back.
All right, sounds good. Guys, thanks again, and have a great rest of your day.